Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight for Dixie's Fire Incident Update. My name is Kim Osborne. I'm with Great Basin Team 1, Public Information Officer, and we are on the east side, east zone of the fire. This evening, you'll be hearing from various experts in their fields, updating you on recent evacuations, fire activity, and weather. If you have any questions for our speakers this evening, please submit them online there on Facebook Live, and we'll try to get to those questions. So let me first bring you up with the latest numbers regarding the Dixie fire. The Dixie fire is currently at over 820,000 acres with 48% containment. There are currently 3,970 personnel assigned to the incident. I'd like to introduce you to our first speaker. Please welcome Incident Meteorologist Jack Messick.
Thank you, Kim.
It's on.
Good evening, everyone. As the incident meteorologist, I do basically look out, especially from the period now for 6 days out. And what I do is we have here what I call the weather dashboard, which is a poster that shows the 6 days in summary, and we call it general weather outlook. But I call it a dashboard because the more red lights you see, just like the dashboard on your car, the more concerned you should be. And the same with yellow lights as a caution. So if you look at it, you can see there's lots of red and lots of yellow. And that means that conditions are not conducive to, basically Mother Nature is not helping us fight this fire at all, with the exception of one where you see the green, that's called LAL, that means lightning activity level. We're not expecting any thunderstorms of any kind during the next week. So that's the only way nature's really helping us, is it's not adding lightning to the mix. But we are very warm. We are extremely dry, and we are going to continue to be breezy. We were windy today with gusts over 30 miles an hour, but starting tomorrow they'll be less, but they'll still be gusting into the 20 to 28 mile an hour range. So this makes firefighting very difficult. Fires stay intense, they spread rapidly, so it's very hard to get around. Also, we're going to be very warm. We are cooling down a little bit here, but then starting Friday, we expect to warm back up, and we'll be back with some locations reaching near 100 degrees by next Tuesday. So with that, I will pass it on.
Thank you, Jack. Our next speaker will be Fire Behavior Analyst Tobin Kelly.
Thank you. Good evening. So I'll talk a little bit about some of the fire behavior we've been seeing out there. I'll kind of start over on this side, Division WW. So one of the things that we're starting to see is what we call needle cast, and that happens when the fire underburns enough that it doesn't completely burn the canopy of the tree, but it burns severely enough that that the needles then drop off. And that needle cast later is starting to get thick enough out there that it's starting to carry fire. So the fire that still remains in the stump holes and the duff ignites that, and we get surface fire again. So that is starting to occur out in some of these areas you've heard, and over around Taylorsville and Genesee. So that's one of the issues that we deal with, and that you can still continue to have fire in some of these areas that look black. So talk a little bit about some of the other fire behavior we're seeing up here around Grizzly Peak and H60. That fire continues to kind of back down the hill and crest the ridge there. Little bit of activity up along the north side with the heavy winds we've been having that Jack talked about. Looking around along Grizzly Ridge, the southwest winds have been very favorable to help keep that fire pushed back across the ridge. And down here where the fire continues to move along Grizzly Ridge, that fire continues to be favorable for at least keeping it away from the Highway 70 corridor. So what we saw yesterday and today is the fire did turn the corner around the Walker fire scar, and it is is pushed out in the northeast direction. So that is where our main fire growth has been. Today the growth is approximately out in this area here. So as Jack said, we're not going to be in red flag warning tomorrow, but we're going to be very close to it. It's going to stay very windy, very dry. So that's going to continue to influence the fire behavior we've seen. So we've been seeing plume development where a lot of heavy fuels push up the column that you've seen up to 30,000 feet at times, and then the strong winds have bent that column over and collapses it. So that's what helps spread the fire even more. We're going to continue to see that, a little bit less wind, so we could get more column development. A little bit of a change, too, is that Jack is sinking, instead of the really strong southerly southwest winds, might have a little bit more of a westerly component. So that would actually help the fire spread, maybe push it a little bit more to the east rather than to the northeast. So we'll see, hopefully tomorrow, that will occur and steer the fire a little bit more. So again, we're going to continue to see very active fire with the hot and dry conditions and the very dry fuels out there and the windy weather. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Tobin. We will next have Jeff Serber, Fire Operations.
Good evening. So a little update on today. There was very little activity in the back of the fire. There's still smoke reports from concerned folks, and we chase down every one of those whenever we can. I just got one about a minute before I came in that there's a smoking tree in Milford, and the report came in with a street name and no address, no phone number, and no reporting party. So that makes it difficult to follow up just on smoke reports. When we get that kind of thing, that's an hour and a half for our night division folks to drive one way over there to investigate. So I just would ask people, if you do see something like that, we would like to find out where you saw it from, maybe a phone number so we could talk to you about it and kind of figure out what we're doing, because we have most of our folks tonight on divisions uniform and Romeo, which means they're embedded up here on the fire in these locations around here and around here. And to travel, as most of you know that are local, from Taylorsville and get to Milford takes, that'll take an engine hours out of their shift at night to try to go investigate a smoke report that's that far away. So it really helps us if you can give us a little bit more information on those smoke reports, but we're happy to follow them up and let you know exactly what we find. And that way, if you do report it, you'll know that we took care of it or we couldn't find it, and you can help us find it. And so that was pretty much, we got a lot of those today. So people are staying busy chasing after smoke reports, and I'm not discouraging people from that. I'm just looking for a little bit more information. We do offer that information. So that's kind of what's going on in the back of the fire. This area back in here, we haven't had any potential for fire to break out of that area, at least since this team's been here. Some of the internal areas continue. I think today we turned, maybe it was yesterday, we turned a couple chunks of line of fire perimeter from red to black. We feel confident that the fire won't escape those areas or has a very little risk of fire escape. So then we start that would be removing fuel from a dozer line or from a hand line. This line behind Taylorsville, this portion of it is built by bulldozers. This portion was too steep, and it was built by hand crews, so it's a smaller line. And they'll go back and they'll take chainsaws and make it wider and cut limbs off the trees so that they don't have any ladder fuel, so that when they do light the fire, there's less opportunity for it to climb up in the trees, torch a tree, and throw embers and create spot fires. So that's kind of what's still going on in here, as well as this line. And as you can see, this is dozer line, and it's been burned, and it's getting more and more secure every day. But that only goes to about this location here, right where this other line takes off, this other dozer line takes off. So we still have to secure this chunk of fire from going that way or that way, and that's why we have these two lines right in here above Taylorsville. Eventually, we'll get to the point where we feel comfortable enough to hold that we can burn it out on this south side of this line and the north side of that line, and try to connect this in here with black area. This would be green, this would be green. That's our desired effect. So they continue to do that on division uniform, and then you move down here on division Romeo, which is this section from the division break shown back over to approximately, I don't see it on this map, but the division break is right down here by Davis Lake, or Lake Davis, depending on, I believe it's actually Lake Davis. But anyway, this line was burned today. This hook was made, and we're pretty well getting real close to Lake Davis with that fire. We have not had any, I think I've heard that folks may have felt like, or heard that we had a little bit of slop over that line, but we haven't. As far as I know, I hope I'm giving you the proper information. I double check it a lot but we've had a heavy, as you know, heavy southwest wind that blew all this fire back in towards the main fire when it was fired out. So there was very little opportunity for this to escape. Plus we use scooper aircraft and other forms of help out here, so that when they light it, there's very little opportunity for it to spot on the other side of the line. So that's kind of what went on today. On Romeo, that in this case, that portion of the line will be put into more of a holding pattern tonight. I should say there's about a mile of line left to do when they hand off the torch from day shift to night shift tonight. So they will continue burning tonight for a little bit until they can finish that up, and then it'll be holding, which is where people spread out along the area that's been burned and patrol, basically stand, walk, keep their eyes open, walk out into the green area, make sure there's no embers that start to flare up or a spot fire, any spots that went across the line. So that's what they'll be doing out there on Romeo tonight. And then right on this side, on the Bagley Pass Road, right in here, we had a spot today that this fire perimeter is not the latest fire perimeter. I don't believe that may be available online or actually in some of our records. I haven't been in the camp today. I was out for the entire day, so I'm not sure exactly when this was printed, but this fire has expanded fairly substantially out to the east and a little bit farther out to the east and northeast. So we had a spot in here chasing it with dozers right about in this area near the ranch. I think it's the Clover Valley Ranch, maybe. Excuse me if that's a little bit wrong, but I think that's what it is. Anyway, we're working on that tonight. We'll continue to work on it. We're putting more dozers on night shift in order to try to when I said we chase them with dozers, what I mean is we move the dozers along the flank of the fire where we can move along and stay with it at night. We can't really do that in the daytime because the fire's too intense. I was out there early this morning around 6 or 5:30 and out here off the old 1 road, and the fire flame lengths were, campfire size. So that is really conducive to being able to build line with dozers and even hand lines. So we're going to put more of those folks out there at night with that heavy equipment that can move right up against and do what we call direct line, where there is no space between the fire edge, or very little space between the fire edge and our equipment or our hand crews. So we're going to take advantage of that night shift as much as we can and try to make some progress on the flanks and continue to push out on this flank. This flank is still contained as it moved up here, up to the northeast today, is still contained on one side by the Walker Fire of 2019. So our biggest concern is this side, and it has not crossed the 01 road, or excuse me, it has crossed the 01 road right here. It has not crossed the 177 road. Here's Four Corners right here at drop point 625, and we plan to take this, use this road that goes out to Milford as a holding feature, and try to, this road makes a turn and moves back to the northwest right here, and take it back into this spot fire from about 10 days ago. So we'd like to be able to hook it up this road, back over, and tie it back into the black and prevent the forward spread. This fire is over here in this location now. So again, we'll slow down a little bit also. So that's the plan for kind of tonight and tomorrow. And let's see, what else do I want to discuss? I had a few questions here. Did the fire slop over Grizzly Ridge? No. It's contained within this dozer line right here. It is being burned, and you've seen a glow for several nights. That was, some of the glow was the main fire, and some of the glow was the burning operation that was taking place along that dozer line. How many miles is the fire from Lake Davis? You can see that as we come down here tonight, it's going to be within just a few miles of Lake Davis, and it is right at Lake Davis on this side, where we're constructing line going out to the north, hooking it back around the ranch and back into this road to the 177 to go north. So we're right in there close to Lake Davis, but we are on the north end where the structures are much more minimal, campgrounds and things like that, rather than structures on the south end, living structures anyway. Miles from Portola, I'm not prepared. This map doesn't have miles on it, so I would just say that you can see Portola. The fire is here, so from the whatever the distance is from the north end, excuse me, the north end of Lake Davis to Portola is the mileage, and I haven't looked at a map and counted that up, but what happened in Genesee? Yesterday, this area right here, for the most part, filled in. I pointed the wrong spot. No, that's it. It came down the hill right behind some residential structures, and we had folks in there. They took action, and I do understand there might have been one structure that was lost. I'm not prepared to speak of that, other than the person that told me that that may have occurred. So other than that, I don't know what kind of structure it was. I don't have any information about it, but I'm sure that'll come out in the future. But other than that, all the rest of the structures are unharmed in that area, and that was during the wind event yesterday that occurred. Today, there was no issue at all in Genesee, so I'm assuming that question came from what happened there yesterday. And then there's concern about the 70 corridor, Portola, Delacour. Is that how you say it? I hope that's how you say it. Delacour and on to Greenhorn Ranch. What is the possibility of the fire coming down that way? So as of tonight, fingers crossed, good news would be to hook this, hold this, get it deep enough and allow it to cool off enough that any adverse winds would not push it back across this line. But right now, the winds are favorable, so it's looking better all the time as far as getting this line tied into Lake Davis, which leaves this area open over here, but it doesn't leave near as much of a chance of Greenhorn, Kromberg, Graygle areas being affected by fire. So we're hoping that this will hold, and it should be complete by tonight. And then we'll keep people out there for, I don't want to say weeks, but days to weeks, pretty much monitoring that line to make sure that nothing comes across that, because that's a super important effort there for everybody. And I think that's all I have.
Thank you, Jeff. We will now see a presentation video from the West Zone featuring Operations Section Chief Mike Wink.
Good evening. My name is Mike Wink, and I am Operations Section Chief for CAL FIRE Incident Management Team 1 here on the West Zone of the Dixie for your current situation update. So we're going to start like every day, start over here in Branch 9. A lot of good things happening there in Branch 9. Getting some more containment line on the map. Some of the evacuation orders are being turned to warnings. Some more folks are back in there. And with the folks getting back in there, one thing, please remember, if you see a smoke or you have a call for service, please, if you see something burning, go ahead and call 911. That's a process we need to use. Don't call your friend of a friend who knows somebody that will get there eventually. Use the normal process. We'll get out there and make sure it's mitigated. And we appreciate everybody's extra eyes out there keeping an eye on things. So as we move up here into the park, continued efforts in there for direct line construction and holding here off of West Prospect, and then doing primary line, secondary line, contingency line, all in the Old Station area. And as a reminder, Old Station is used to describe the entire area outside the park there in Shasta County. So that encompasses all the little communities and subdivisions and roads and critical infrastructure that's in that general area. So we continue to do fuels reduction and build line in that area. And when think they're done, they're going to go back and start over or look for additional opportunities for improvement until this piece has black line on it and we're sure that it's contained. So those efforts are ongoing and will be ongoing. As we continue over here into the Lassen sector, this is where we've had the most activity over the last several days, and that continues today. This piece that shows right here holding on this line, that's called the Hall Road, and it's kind of the old A21 road. It's a dirt road, but it's really good. And now on that road, in that area, the fuel transitions from a heavy timber model. The timber is then more open. The terrain is more flat. It's got a grass and snow brush mixture with scattered ground litter, so it's very receptive to our fire control efforts if it's a ground fire. So far, we're holding it on that road. Currently, right now, we do have some spots across that, but the resources in place are picking up those spots and getting everything held. So having a good day out there right now, even though we're still under red flag conditions until 11 o'clock tonight. We do have resources in there working on Highway 44, removing fuels along Highway 44 just in case we have to pull back to that. We've got the fire train out there. They're with us. They've got 50,000 gallons of water and retardant in case we need to pull back to that line, and the utility easement to help us in there. And then as a reminder on the utility easement, PG&E went in there and sprayed all the poles so they are resistant to fire spread and catching fire with the red retardant on there. And that's key not only to the power for this area, but for the communications. The fiber line runs along those, and if they were damaged or destroyed, there is a possibility that landline, cell phones, and internet service could be temporarily interrupted. So that's a key critical infrastructure. We're working with the railway, working with the utility providers, all working together, as well as with CHP and Caltrans. As a reminder, last night at 7:30, we had to close Highway 44 from the A21 up to Old Station because of fire activity. The fire reached our management action point. Everybody had pre-discussed it. It was going to be a dangerous situation if it continued that way. It's holding. That will continue to be reevaluated. We know that's impacting a lot of folks, so we'll continue to evaluate that to see if we need to keep that road closed. We appreciate your patience on there. As we come down here into Westwood, no changes. This entire Westwood area, Chester, West Almanor, calls for service as people get back in there. That's fine. Go ahead and let us know. We'll get out there. On the Highway 36 corridor, basically, if you can see it from the 36 corridor, we're going to be in there addressing it. You'll see additional black line on the map from where the fire takes off at 36 and heads south and west behind the SBI headquarters over here to the meadow. That's all blackened in now, and this piece over here above Westwood is blackened in because of the efforts over the last couple weeks. There's still a little bit of stuff. That peat moss is still burning in the meadow. We got sprinkler kits in there. We continue to deal with that. That's going to be a long-term concern that we keep addressing. Come back around now down to Janesville branch. So a lot of activity down here today because of the fire spread down in the east zone. Last night and yesterday, 4 miles to the south, or 3 miles to the south and 4 miles to the east. So we are working together with the resources from the west zone and the east zone. The branch directors are out there making sure that we're both doing a common objective and working on the same lines, trying to get this piece boxed in and brought back up here to the burn scar so that it doesn't impact these communities along the Highway 395 corridor. However, we're always making secondary and contingency plans, right? So we're building line, just like I've been saying, west of the escarpment, multiple lines trying to get our way down here to the Beckworth complex, working along 395 parallel, trying to work our way all the way down to Doyle, making sure that we have a plan in case it does come off the escarpment, as well as making sure we communicate with the Sierra Army Depot, the prison, and the community of Hurlong out here. Okay, they're pretty far out there. The fuels out there are very receptive to our fire control efforts, but we do have a plan in case that happens. So that is your current situation here on the west zone of the Dixie. We still have those red flag conditions until this evening, and then tomorrow we'll have a new panel. We'll talk to you in the morning. Thanks.
Next, we'll hear from Plumas County Sheriff's Office Sheriff Johns.
Good evening. I'm Sheriff Todd Johns, Plumas County Sheriff. First, I'd like to discuss evacuation order that was sent out today. These zones essentially included Dixie Valley, Frenchman Lake area north to the Plumas County, Lassen County line. These zones on Zone Haven included Plumas 34, Plumas 37, Plumas 43, and Plumas 43B. So essentially, everything out in this area is where it covered. And then today we were able to reduce some evacuation orders to warnings, and that area included west of Chester to the Plumas-Tehama County line, and that was reduced to a warning. And then as a reminder, East Quincy is in an evacuation warning from the north side of Chandler Road and Highway 70 from Quincy Junction Road to Messick. So that is in a warning. Just real quickly, I wanted to discuss Taylorsville and repopulation. I have a lot of folks that are asking me to lift the mandatory evacuation order in Taylorsville, as was previously discussed. Going to the map here, there's still considerable fire activity in this area, and as they already indicated, they're putting in dozer lines and things here, but until we get that area to where we feel very comfortable putting citizens back in there, I'm not willing to do that at this time. So far, the fire crews have done an excellent job keeping the fire away from the communities of Greenhorn, Kronberg, and Portola. However, these communities need to remain vigilant and prepare for possible fire and evacuation. As I've been saying for over a month now, this includes covering your vents, removing household items away from your residence, cleaning your gutters and debris away from your residence, trimming tree limbs up to waist height, and etc. You should prepare personal belongings that are of critical importance. And at this time, just to reiterate what has already been said, this is Grizzly Ridge along here, and the fire's remaining to the north of that. The longer the fire remains to the north of that and burns out here, the better. But as this continues down here, if you see a smoke plume and it starts to go in the direction of Kronberg, or it comes in the direction of Grey Eagle or towards Portola, even if you haven't been placed in a warning or a mandatory order, you should have concern. Okay? You're in green timber, and we've seen repeatedly that this fire has done what it wants to do. Again, the fire crews are doing everything possible to keep it from doing that, but you need to be vigilant and cognizant of the possibility that that fire could come in your direction. With that in mind, we are in the beginning stages of establishing an evacuation center in Truckee, should evacuation orders in these areas become necessary. And again, this is precautionary at this time. And then I would like to remind everyone that at this time our shelter, current shelter is set up at the Holy Catholic Church located at 108 Taylor Avenue in Portola. And for the current evacuation map, please go to community.zonehaven.com. The highways in Plumas County remain open at this time. I want to remind and encourage everyone to drive cautiously. There are still multiple different roadway repair crews working, as well as increased firefighting vehicle activity, and their safety is important. It seems odd to talk about recovery when the fire isn't even out. However, Phase 1 cleanup crews are continuing to make progress in areas that have been impacted by the fire. As Phase 1 is completed and being conducted, and as power and water services are restored, residents will be permitted to return home. I would like to be able to give an exact time line when this will take place. All I can say is at this time we are making excellent progress daily to achieve this goal, and it is a priority of mine to get folks back home as quickly as I can. Additionally, today I met with several members from Cal OES and members of FEMA regarding locations for temporary housing in both Greenville and Quincy. Tomorrow we will meet again and discuss debris removal. I'm told that as a county we're moving through this process quite quickly, and I do recognize that for some it is still too slow. But again, this fire is still actively burning on one end of our county, and we're trying to start the recovery process on the other end. So I would hope folks recognize that that is a feat in itself. For the most current information, please follow us on Facebook, and also refer to the website plumascounty.us under the Dixie Fire tab. As I have previously stated, we will start putting informational videos on our webpage in the next few days that will explain next steps, including FEMA guidelines and qualifications, Phase 2 cleanup, and personal assistance. And for those of you that do have insurance, I want to remind you that contacting your personal insurance company should be your first step prior to registering for FEMA assistance. In closing, I'll say this. Normally I like to thank folks, but tonight what I want to do is just say this. This fire continues to make relentless efforts daily to destroy the positive feelings or thoughts that we might have towards recovery. But I personally refuse to believe that our finest hour is in our future. I continue to encourage. I am continually encouraged by the support of my citizens and the folks outside of our communities that are ready to be here in a moment's notice to support us and start the process of rebuilding. If we continue to support one another, hold up those that have lost so much, we cannot fail. We are a strong community and a strong county, and we will rebuild and recover from this fire. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff, for those words. We have a video now from the Lassen County Sheriff with Dean Groden, so let's watch that.
Good evening, everyone. This is Lassen County Sheriff Dean Groden. I'm recording this in the field. It's about 4:35 on the 31st of August. I want to cover some additional warnings that were issued today. So they were on the east side of Highway 395 or the lake side of Highway 395 from Thunder Mountain Road down to County Road 826. It also includes that Hurlong area, Title 9, and those residences that are accessed off of 825 and 826. We're monitoring fire activity, and we're in constant contact with the teams on the west and east side of the fire. If areas are transitioned to evacuation orders, you'll see law enforcement from the Sheriff's Office, CDCR, U.S. Forest Service, CHP, and CAL FIRE will be going door to door. Plus, we'll send out alerts through Code Red and also the IPAWS or Emergency Alerting System, as well as getting information out through the media. We also, as far as sheltering goes, county's been working with shelters out of Reno, Nevada, and we'll be putting that information on our Facebook page in the near future if it's not already on there. And also large animals can be taken to the Lassen County Fairgrounds currently. If in those warning areas, people should be considering moving their large animals out. People should be ready to leave in case they transition to an order, and you should have a plan. I recommend, if you have family, friends, people that live outside, the fire danger area, outside of the warning and order areas, I recommend you make those plans and have them ready so you're ready to leave. You should have personal items ready to go also. And along the 395 corridor, it's important to remember, the later you leave under an evacuation order, the more likely you are to get cut off from being able to travel either north or south. So the more ready you are, the sooner you heed those orders and leave the area, the more options you might have available to you. So I just want to thank all the personnel working on these fires. Obviously, it's been weeks now, and there's really no end in sight. But I want to thank the public for their ongoing support. We really appreciate it. It's been a tough time for all of us, and we just need to hang in there and keep supporting each other. And in closing, I just want to say thank you, be safe, and God bless.
Thank you and good evening. Chris Carlton, Forest Supervisor here in the Plumas and one of several agency administrators on this Unified Command incident. Just a couple of things. We've gotten some questions about these meetings and the information that's out there, and just want to go back to why we do these. We put these together to keep you informed. We recognize that there are a lot of concerns and a lot of needs for information out there. So we do these community meetings nightly, alternating on the zones. And the other ways that we're doing the community information, there's a couple of pieces of it. There's how are we doing it, and then what's the information we're getting out there. The how we're doing it, we've got these meetings which are online. We recognize not everybody can be online, especially these days. It's always a challenge in the best of times. It's more of a challenge for a lot of our communities right now. So we do have those sandwich boards that you'll see outside the stores. We have our public information folks from both of the teams that go around to keep those updated. We have the radio. But if there's other ways that would work to reach people, please let us know. We want to make sure we're getting as much information to as many people as accurately as possible. So please keep the suggestions coming in. Couple updates. So we do have an extension of that closure order, and all forests in California are closed until 17 September. The regional forester made that decision just looking around at the situation we're in. We've got 11 large uncontained fires within the state. We have 1.7 million acres burned this season. That's more than last year. We're in a more severe season this year than we were last year, and we know how tough that was. We've seen how tough this is, and we're not through it yet. So that's one of those decisions that the Forest Service, the regional forester, made to keep our keep the forest closed and try to keep people safe. We'd had a question about how much of the Plumas has burned, and so far since 2017, we've had 51% of this forest has burned. A couple of things just looking through the comments and the chat and some of the feedback we've gotten. Really want to recognize and appreciate all the feedback we get. There have been some comments in there about making sure the new team's getting up to speed. I want to assure everybody that we have. Both teams are doing everything they can. They're actively engaged. We have our local folks, both CAL FIRE and Forest Service, helping out with those teams. If there is something that you want to see done a little differently, just go ahead and let us know, and we'll work with the teams to make that happen. I also recognize that we've been at this for about 60 days now. For a lot of you, we are definitely. A lot of people are tired right now. In the communities, you've been through a lot. The teams here, the firefighters, first responders have been through a lot. It really is the time, if we can, to just show some grace. I know that it can be pretty tough. There's some questions out there. Let's keep working together. If you have questions, please go to the Sheriff's Office website, to the Forest, to CAL FIRE. Make sure you're getting that good information. Really help us keep people informed and keep people safe. So have a great evening, and thank you.
We'll next hear a video from Agency Administrator with the last National Forest, Deb Bumpus.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Deb Bumpus. I'm the Forest Supervisor on the Lassen National Forest and one of the agency administrators for this incident. I want to thank you for joining us again tonight, and I wanted to just give a little bit of a message from the Susanville area and an update on what we saw yesterday from my perspective. So I just want you to know how busy it was here yesterday. You know, with the winds going on and smoke coming up, everybody was working together jointly to protect everybody out there, to protect the communities, and that's one of the biggest priorities, if not the biggest priority for this fire. Everybody here in camp has been communicating extremely well with the county, with the city, with all the towns and communities, with the tribes, and anybody else that's interested in learning about this fire. So I want to make sure that you have the opportunity to provide feedback or ask questions to us as well. One of the other things I wanted to cover tonight, I mentioned it a little bit last night, was the extended forest closure order. This is now a closure for all the forests within Region 5, which is within California. And the reason that we're doing this is to provide for protection to the public and also to our firefighters. As you're well aware, we're getting a lot more fires throughout the state, and our resources are really stretched extremely thin. So in order for us to be able to respond, you know, we've got to slow down on the number of people that come into the forest and really provide more protection for those communities that live around us. So when our firefighters are assigned to incidents, it really leaves a very few number left here on the forest to respond to any other starts that could occur. So this is one way to protect us and protect the public as we move forward. It will be for another 2-week period to expire on the 19th of September. There are some exceptions to that. It will be in the order, and you can find that on any forest website, any forest within the state of California, any of their websites. The other thing that I wanted to mention is something that we're being very careful of within this camp and all camps on the fires is protection from COVID. COVID continues to increase in our communities, and also we do have some positives within the camps, but we're taking care of those folks who do test positive. We're providing them protection, we're providing them care as that occurs, and making sure that they're well taken care of. So those are just a few things that are non-fire that I wanted to provide to you tonight. Just know too that we are really leaning on you all for your patience as we continue to fight this fire. I know that a lot of people want to get back out in the forest and just see what's happened to their favorite places, but continue to keep up with the sheriff's departments, all the counties that you're associated with. They will have those orders, they will have those warnings identified. They keep those up to date, and so you can see what is happening within an area of concern that you have. But know that this fire, even when we at some point in the future transition back to the forest, it's still going to be very unsafe out there with all the trees that we've had burned. So with these winds, those trees have the potential to fall. With the drought that we've had, green trees are also breaking. So be very careful. Know that we're keeping up with that, and we will allow people back in the forest when we think it is safe for everybody. So that's all for me tonight. I look forward to talking to you again in the near future. Thank you.
Our last speaker will be our East Zone Incident Commander, Evans Coil, and then we'll have a few minutes for questions. Evans.
Thank you, Kim. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Evans Coil, Incident Commander for Great Basin Team 1. Thank you for joining us this evening. So as you've heard from our incident meteorologist, our fire behavior analyst, and our ops chiefs, we are continuing to be challenged, both teams, on this fire due to the hot, dry, windy conditions, and it does not appear that there's going to be much in the way of significant relief coming. So that being said, both teams are actively engaged in fighting this fire. West Zone has their problem areas up on the north end by Old Station and the Highway 44 portion that's impacted by that fire. And on the East Zone, we have the area that we've been working on, trying to hang on to Grizzly Ridge to keep the fire from going down to the Highway 70 corridor, and then also try to keep it west and north of Davis Lake, and then also how do we continue to secure this fire and tie it back into the Walker fire scar before it gets up to the Milford area. So both teams, in fact, are jointly working on this section up in here to protect Milford, and in fact, very gratified to see how well our two teams have been able to mesh, trade resources. If we have something they need, or vice versa, that's been going back and forth, so we can meet the goal of, we all have the common goal if we want to put this fire out, and we can only, the only way we're going to be able to do it is do it together. Some of the other things we're also doing is we're meeting daily with both county sheriffs, as you heard, and a big part of that is to talk about where's the current threat. Where do we think the fire is going to go based on all the science and all the experience that we can bring to bear, and then start designing those next areas that we need to start looking at evacuation statuses. For the most part, we've been working on concentrating on increasing them, going upwards in where the areas that are threatened, but happy to also be able to report that every now and then we're able to downgrade an area of evacuation based on success that one of the teams has been having to secure a particular section. So that process will continue, and we're also making sure that our lines of communication with all the county emergency managers is crystal clear and without doubt. I was handed a couple questions. The first one had to do with a question about the map that we had on NCWeb. And that's a very good question. I'm glad somebody brought it up. Earlier today, the our map on the NCWeb on the extreme southern part of the fire had this what looked like a slop over, this triangle thing going down into I believe it was Little Long Creek Canyon right above Sloat. We tracked it down. We figured out what that was. It had to do with the collection asset that we were using to map the fire. And unfortunately, sometimes the perimeters aren't validated 100% before they're uploaded. But as soon as that was brought to our attention, we rectified. And I believe if you go to NCWeb now, that little weird triangle is now gone. We've also been getting some questions online from people. I think they're looking at either the MODIS and VIIRS satellite detects from the NASA and NOAA satellites, and sometimes those can be a little bit misleading. So just a couple points for you folks to understand if you're trying to use the NASA MODIS or VIIRS is there's two issues. One being that the pixel size is pretty coarse. So MODIS, I believe, is about 1,000 meter by 1,000 meters, so that's about 250 acre size, and the algorithm defaults to the centroid of that area. So somewhere inside a 250 acre area, there may be heat, and so that kind of throw things off. VIIRS is a little more precise, but it's like a 70 acre box. The other thing that MODIS and VIIRS, the satellites, have a tendency to do is they throw false positives. So they might be looking obliquely at an angle, looking down, and they might pick up the column. There is heat in the column, just all that energy going up, and they see that heat, but they continue to project that angle, and it's kind of like refraction when you're looking into a water body and the fish isn't really where you actually see it is. So that has a tendency to throw off the accuracy. We do use MODIS and VIIRS, those satellite detects, to help inform, but mostly we use it for more strategic level decision making as opposed to tactical, because the accuracy is, as you may have already seen, is not the best. Instead, what we rely on is manned fixed-wing aircraft, as well as some of them larger UASs for these mapping missions, and that way we can help verify and truly portray what we know to be fire. Let's see, the last one other question that we got was why so much backburning? So, well, ladies and gentlemen, you have to understand that when we're fighting fire, we have multiple tactics, one being direct. And Jeff, our operations on the East Zone, talked about when we go direct, we try to get right up against the edge of the fire and pretty much remove all that burnable vegetation and fuel from the fire to halt the spread. When the fire is too intense, in other words, the radiant heat or the convective heat coming off that fire is just way too hot for us to get close to, we have to go indirect. So we're not right up against the edge of the fire. When that happens, at some point, you have to remove that fuel between the fire line and the main fire in order to stop it. And if we don't, that fire will continue to burn actively and intensely until it gets to the line, and if it's too hot, we can't hold the line. So one of the tools we use is we'll put fire on the ground. We'll use fire to fight fire, We'll put fire on the ground to remove that burnable vegetation. Ideally speaking, we do it under our terms. So we do it when it's manageable, it's controlled, and when the wind is in our favor, so it pushes it back in on itself to reduce the potential for spotting. That being said, every now and then we get forced into a position where if we don't put fire down on the ground right now, it's just going to roll right over the top of us. And so every now and then you might hear of, crews having to do defensive firing, and that's sometimes that it works, and sometimes it doesn't. As you've seen, it is quite a bit of calculation has to go into it, experience. So it's a tool that we use as judiciously as possible, but it is one of the tools in our toolbox. An associated question is, why do we fire from the valley floor up? So I wouldn't say we always do that. In fact, on the Grizzly Ridge, we burn from the ridge top down. But every now and then when we're working in an area where the hillside is way too steep that we cannot safely engage firefighters up on that steep slope, or it's too steep for mechanized equipment such as dozers, fire really is our only solution. So we secure a line, generally speaking, where the dozers can be at the toe of the slope or the valley bottom, and then we will put fire on the ground. If we just light from the bottom up, generally speaking, you get a very hot, intense fire because that fire will just rip right up the hill. So whenever possible, we will try to bring fire from top down and slowly back it down. If you're curious what I mean about backing fire, light a match and hold it vertically so that the candle is, the match or the fire is at the top. It'll slowly back down that matchstick until, it gets to your fingers, and then you blow it out. But say you light that match and you hold it upside down, what happens? That flame gets longer because it burns the entire matchstick, and it hurts your hand. So holding the match upside down, that's head fire. Holding the match up, fire side up, that's backing fire. So as much as possible, we try to do the backing fire because that's our way of controlling it. And if we can burn from the top down, we light a strip, let it burn, let it cool off, light another strip below it, so on and so forth. So hopefully that helps explain some of the tactics that we use. And if not, if there's no other questions, I'll give it back to Kim. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Evans. I think we have time for just a few more questions. Our ops, was there a few questions that you had that we've been writing them down, and he'll come up and read those?
So somebody asked the status of the west end of Dixie Valley. The Dixie Valley area is right here. There's 4 corners, just for reference. The fire, I think I described the fire earlier. It had a tendency to push much, right out into here today. When we were at 4 corners, I spent quite a bit of time there today. This fire did come, that big column, you could see it was expanding out to the west some, but when it hit, it was hitting more probably in this area of the flat that extends up the 01 road from 4 corners and then continued on out to the northeast. So pretty much it's all still right over in this area, the fire is, and Dixie Valley's right there. So for reference, several miles away and on the other side of the main north-south road. A couple of the questions refer to the west zone. As you'll recall, we have barbells on this map here and over in that area, and this map doesn't have it, but there is a yellow line that goes through the middle of the map that separates the west zone from the east zone, and a couple of these questions refer to the west zone, and as you can imagine, each of us has responsibility for over 400,000 acres. So if somebody asks me a question about the Lake Almanor area or Mount Meadows Reservoir, I am not prepared to answer that. So every other night, I think they hold a question and answer session, probably over on the west zone. So I'd suggest if you have any questions that refer to that northern area or western area, that you ask those questions during their meetings, and they would be much more prepared to answer that. And then how close is the Dixie fire to Portola? That's the second time somebody's asked. So I did use some rough mathematics and measurements, and I think I came up with 9 to 10 miles from the north end of Lake Davis, air miles, back to Portola. So that distance is about 9 to 10 miles. That's all I have.
Thank you, Jeff. With that, we've completed all of our questions, and we appreciate you listening in. We will have another Facebook Live on Thursday, September 2nd at 7:30 p.m. So this will also be posted on our Lassen and Plumas Facebook pages, so if you want to watch it again later. Any of those questions that we were unable to answer tonight or are for the West Side, we will try to get you some answers right there on Facebook. Have a great night.